The grand throne hall of the Astron Dominion glittered like a field of stars. Tall crystal pillars stood on both sides, glowing in soft blue. Hundreds of nobles in royal robes filled the hall, whispering, watching, waiting. Today was not a normal royal gathering. Today was the day the Dominion would meet the first human envoy ever allowed into their territory. Queen Lyria, only 26, sat straight on her silver throne. Her crown was delicate but heavy, a symbol of a responsibility she had taken too early in life. She looked calm from the outside, but her heart beat a little faster than usual. The galaxy was changing. New species were rising, and humans, small, unknown, unpredictable, had suddenly become the center of attention. The Queen's advisors had warned. Her humans are emotional. Humans hide their power. Humans are strange and unpredictable. But Lyria did not fear humans. She simply didn't understand them. And what one does not understand, one often underestimates. A soft chime echoed through the hall. The giant doors slowly opened, and silence spread like a wave. Commander Elias Ward entered. He did not wear glowing armor like other species. He did not walk with guards or banners. He wore simple dark clothing with a small silver emblem of Earth pinned on his chest. His steps were quiet but confident, and his back stayed straight as he moved across the long hall. His eyes scanned the room calmly, almost gently, as if nothing here threatened him. To the nobles, his simplicity looked like weakness. They smirked, whispered, and exchanged mocking glances, but Queen Lyria saw something they did not: strength without noise. When Elias reached the center of the hall, he bowed with graceful respect. Not too low, not too proud. Just right. Your Majesty, he said, his voice calm and steady. I come from the United Human Colonies. Humanity offers friendship, understanding, and cooperation. But before he could finish, Lyria's pride, sharp and unguarded, slipped out in her voice. Friendship? She said loudly, piercing the silence. From a species with only one small world? A species still learning basic star travel? You walk in empty-handed and speak as if you stand equal among empires? The entire hall stiffened. Some nobles grinned, delighted. Others watched nervously. Elias did not react. Not even a blink. His face stayed still, his eyes steady on the Queen. Lyria expected anger. She expected a defensive speech. She expected him to argue, to give long words about human potential. But instead, he simply straightened. A quiet sigh escaped his chest. Not of fear. Not of frustration, but of something deeper. Disappointment. Elias looked at the Queen one last time. His expression was not angry, it was wounded in a quiet, human way. The kind of hurt that did not explode but sank inside the heart. Then, without a single word, without even a second glance, he turned around and walked away. His footsteps echoed softly across the hall, each one heavier than the last. The nobles expected him to stop, to argue, maybe even to insult. But he didn't. He walked with dignity, with calmness, with a silence more powerful than any speech. When the doors closed behind him, the hall felt strangely cold and empty. Queen Lyria sat frozen. Her breath caught somewhere between pride and regret. She had won the moment. She had shown dominance. She had protected her throne. But the victory felt hollow. His silence hurt more than anger. His calmness hurt more than shouting. For the first time in years, she felt something unfamiliar and heavy in her chest. She had pushed away a man who came with respect, and she knew it instantly. This mistake would not be easy to undo. The throne hall stayed quiet long after Elias left. It felt as if his silence still floated in the air, colder than the marble floor beneath the Queen's feet. Nobles whispered among themselves, unsure whether to celebrate or fear what had happened. Queen Lyria did not hear any of them. She sat on her silver throne, staring at the door he had walked through. Her fingers tightened on the armrests, not out of anger, but from a strange, unfamiliar ache spreading inside her chest. She had spoken with pride, yes, but she had never expected him to leave so quietly. Most envoys argued, some shouted, some tried to prove their strength. But the human? He just walked away. The Queen's closest advisor, Minister Veron, stepped forward cautiously. Your Majesty, he whispered, we expected stronger reaction from the human. His silence may mean nothing. Lyria looked up at him slowly. Nothing? She repeated in a soft voice that felt heavier than shouting. If it meant nothing, he would have stayed. Veron swallowed. Humans are dramatic creatures. They act emotionally. No, Lyria said quietly. He acted with dignity. Her words surprised even herself. Later that afternoon, Lyria wandered through the royal garden, alone. The sky above Asteron Prime was violet with swirling gold clouds. But even the beauty of the world felt distant to her. Every time she tried to think of political strategy or diplomatic consequences, her mind returned to the same moment, the human turning away, his calm steps, his disappointed eyes. Not angry, not scared. Just hurt. She tried to imagine what he felt. Humans were still a mystery to her people. They were simple, emotional, loud in their joys and sorrows. Yet this one had shown a softness that did not match the rumors. Why didn't he defend his people? She whispered to herself. Why didn't he fight back? She sat on a stone bench beneath a glowing tree. The leaves shined silver in the soft breeze. But Lyria's heart felt heavy. Her pride had spoken out of habit. Too fast, too sharp. She had been raised to show strength, to never let others see weakness. A queen must appear higher than all. She must stand firm, speak strong, and never bow. But maybe strength was not what she thought it was. Maybe the human had shown her a different kind of strength. The palace felt strangely empty that evening. Servants moved quietly. Guards avoided direct eye contact. Everyone felt the tension, even if they didn't dare speak about it. Lyria entered her private chamber and closed the door behind her. She removed her crown, placing it gently on the table. Without the weight of it, she felt more like a person and less like a ruler. She walked to the window, looking out at the city lights. For the first time in a long while, she wondered not as a queen, but as a young woman, whether she had been too harsh. Whether she had allowed her crown to speak instead of her heart. She imagined what Elias might be doing now. Was he angry? Was he packing to leave the planet? Was he telling his people that the Asteron Queen was arrogant and not worth dealing with? The thought stung deep. She didn't know why it mattered so much. He was just an envoy. Just one man among billions. So why did his silence echo in her chest again and again? She pressed her hand against the glass window, breathing slowly. I did wrong, she whispered. He came with respect. And I returned it with pride. Her voice trembled, not loud, but honest. For the first time, she wished she could take back her words. Not because of politics, not because of alliances, but because she felt she had hurt someone who had shown nothing but sincerity. And that kind of wound hurt even a queen. Days passed. The palace felt different. Empty, in a way it had never felt before. The human envoy's absence was more noticeable than any presence could have been. Every time Queen Lyria walked through the halls, she expected to see Commander Elias Ward, standing quietly, observing, calm as ever. But he never came. The silence he left behind grew heavier with every hour. The nobles began to notice. Whispers spread like wildfire. The human walked out. Without a word. He was not angry. He did not even try to defend himself. Some laughed. Some frowned. But everyone agreed on one thing. It was unusual. Dangerous even. For centuries, the Dominion had been used to prideful rivals, loud arguments, and fierce negotiations. Humans were not supposed to act like this. Lyria, however, did not hear the whispers. She only heard her own heartbeat, pounding in a rhythm she could not control. Each beat seemed to echo the sound of his footsteps leaving the hall. She could still see his expression in her mind, calm but hurt. Not offended. Not frightened. Hurt. She remembered the way he had held himself straight, shoulders back, head high, and yet had walked away without challenge. That quiet strength unnerved her. It was a power no weapon or army could give, and suddenly, it seemed more important than anything else in the galaxy. In the privacy of her chambers, Lyria could not hide her feelings from herself. She paced slowly, hands clasped behind her back. She imagined what Elias was doing now. Was he thinking of her? Did he feel anger or disappointment? Or was it worse, indifference? The thought made her stomach twist. She sat by her window and watched the city below, its lights sparkling like tiny stars. A gentle wind brushed her hair across her face. She reached out, as if she could touch the place where he had stood, the place where he had been wounded by her words. She whispered to the sky, hoping somehow he might hear. I didn't mean to shame you. But the sky offered no answer. Only darkness and cold air. The advisors tried to distract her, to fill her time with meetings and diplomatic decisions, but nothing worked. Lyria could not focus. Trade agreements blurred together. Reports and letters lost their meaning. All she could think about was him, his calm dignity, his quiet strength. And the way he had left without a single word of anger or insult. For the first time in her life, Lyria realized that pride could be dangerous. It could push away something valuable before you even understood it. And now, she had no idea if she would ever get the chance to correct her mistake. Queen Lyria of the Illyrian Star Empire sat alone on her crystal throne, a throne that once shone like the heart of a rising sun. Now it felt cold and heavy, almost painful to touch. The grand hall around her was silent, as if even the walls understood her sorrow. Bright banners, golden pillars, and floating lanterns decorated the massive chamber, but none of it brought warmth to her heart. For 10 long years, a quiet ache lived inside her, and no force in the universe had been able to heal it. Lyria was known across the galaxy as the Queen of Light. Her people believed she carried the strength of 1,000 stars in her spirit. She had protected distant colonies, ended wars, and kept peace among many worlds. Her presence inspired trust and respect. But today, her eyes were tired, her shoulders were heavy, and her smile, once warm and soft, had vanished completely. The universe saw her as powerful, but they did not see the mother hidden beneath the crown. 10 years ago, her only daughter, Princess Selene, disappeared during a cosmic storm. The princess had been traveling with her tutors across the outer star lanes when a violent energy surge struck their ship. Communication was lost. The ship never returned. Search fleets traveled across thousands of light years, scanning empty space and silent moons, but they found nothing. Many believed Selene had perished. Others said she had drifted too far to ever return, but Queen Lyria never accepted those words. She had felt her daughter's laughter, her warmth, her small arms around her neck when she was little. No mother could ever forget such moments. She refused to believe her daughter was gone. Even when the Empire encouraged her to move forward. Even when political meetings demanded her attention. Even when entire worlds begged her to lead with strength. She remained a mother waiting for a child who had not come home, every morning. Before the palace awakened, she walked to the highest balcony of her tower. From there, she could see the galaxy stretch into infinity, glittering with 1,000,000 stars. She always looked toward the same direction, the sector where her daughter's ship had vanished. She hoped that somewhere out there, Selene was alive. She hoped that one day the stars would carry her daughter back to her arms. But as the years passed, hope became heavier. Her footsteps grew slower. Her voice lost its shine. Her heart carried a quiet pain that no healing crystal, no wise advisor, and no royal ceremony could erase. Still, she waited. The palace staff spoke in soft voices whenever the queen passed by. They admired her strength, yet they feared she was fading from within. Some nights, the guards outside her chamber heard quiet sobs, soft, heartbreaking, and filled with loneliness. But no one dared enter. They respected her grief. They respected her privacy. And deep down, they hoped for the impossible, just as she did. Across the empire, festivals continued, trade routes remained open, and diplomatic ships traveled across planets. The Illyrian Empire prospered, but its heart was wounded. The loss of Princess Selene was not only the queen's sorrow, it was the sorrow of an entire civilization. Children grew up hearing stories of the lost princess. Priests lit lanterns in her memory. Travelers whispered prayers whenever they passed the star lanes where she had disappeared. And yet in the quiet corners of the universe, something was changing. Far beyond the Illyrian borders, beyond the reach of royal fleets and navigational maps, an old escape pod drifted through deep space. Its lights flickered weakly, as if calling out to anyone who might listen. Inside it, a young girl lay in a peaceful, fragile sleep, a girl with silver hair and a soft glow around her skin. She looked serene, untouched by the passing years, as if time itself had protected her. Her name was Selene, and destiny was preparing to wake her. Captain Ethan Ward was known across human space as a wanderer with a gentle heart. He traveled alone in his small exploration ship, the Horizon Star, moving from one quiet corner of the galaxy to another. He searched for forgotten signals, damaged satellites, and lost travelers who needed help. Ethan never called himself a hero. He simply believed that no one deserved to be left alone in the darkness of space. On a calm day, while traveling through an uncharted region, his ship detected a faint distress signal. It was so weak that most scanners would have ignored it, but Ethan's ship was old and sensitive, just like its captain. He frowned at the screen and whispered to himself, "Who could be out here?" The coordinates led him to a lonely moon floating near a dead star. The moon had no life, no cities, no warmth, only rocks and silence. But something small glowed near its surface. As Ethan brought his ship closer, his breath caught in his throat. It was an escape pod, ancient and damaged, barely holding together. A soft light flickered inside it, like a candle fighting against the wind. Ethan landed carefully, stepped out in his suit, and approached the pod. Its metal was cracked, covered in dust from years of drifting. When he wiped the glass window, his heart froze. Inside was a young girl with silver hair, lying very still. Her skin glowed faintly, and her breathing was soft but present. She was alive. Ethan opened the pod with trembling hands, afraid that even a gentle touch might harm her. As the lid lifted, warm air escaped, carrying the faint scent of flowers, something he had never smelled in deep space. The girl's eyes fluttered open for a moment, revealing a soft violet glow. She looked frightened, confused, and exhausted. Hey, Ethan said softly. You're safe now. I'm here. The girl tried to speak, but only one word came out, broken and fragile. Mother. Ethan leaned closer. Who? What's your mother's name? Her lips trembled. She whispered, barely audible, Queen Lyria. Ethan's eyes widened. Even humans knew that name. Queen Lyria was a legendary ruler, respected for her fairness and admired for her strength. Her tragedy, the loss of her only daughter, was known across many worlds. Ethan looked back at the fragile girl and felt a tightness in his chest. Could this be Selene? The lost princess? He gently lifted her into his arms. She felt light, almost weightless, as if she had spent years sleeping without ever waking. He carried her into his ship and placed her on a soft medical bed. The ship's scanners confirmed something unbelievable. Her body had been in a protective stasis chamber, slowing time around her to almost nothing. 10 years had passed outside. But for her, only moments. Ethan covered her with a blanket and sat beside her. She stirred once more, eyes half open. Where am I? You're on my ship, Ethan answered gently. I found you. You're safe. She looked around weakly, then closed her eyes again. My mother. Is she alive? Ethan swallowed. He knew the truth. Queen Lyria still waited. Still searched. Still cried. Yes, he whispered, voice warm and steady. She's alive. And I'll take you back to her. I promise. The girl relaxed as if his words were a soft lullaby. Within seconds, she fell back into peaceful sleep. Ethan leaned back in his chair, staring at her with a mix of awe and responsibility. He had rescued many people in his life, but none like her. She wasn't just a lost traveler. She was the daughter of a queen who had mourned for a decade. She was the answer to a mother's endless prayer, and Ethan felt something he never felt before, a deep sense of purpose. He looked through the window at the stars and whispered, Hang on, Selene. I'm taking you home. The hum of the horizon star filled the small cabin as Captain Ethan Ward carefully monitored the young girl lying on the medical bed. Her breathing was steady now, though shallow, and the soft glow of her skin made the cabin feel almost magical. The longer Ethan watched her, the more he realized she was not just a child. She carried the grace and dignity of someone extraordinary. Even in her fragile state, she stirred, opening her eyes slowly. Where am I? She whispered, her voice weak but curious. The violet light in her eyes flickered with confusion, fear, and hope all at once. You're safe, Ethan said gently. I found you in space. You were lost, but now you're here. You're going home. Home. She repeated softly, the word trembling on her lips. Then, as if gathering courage, she added, To Mother? Yes, Ethan answered, nodding. To your mother. His voice carried the warmth of certainty, even though he himself felt the weight of what lay ahead. He had read every record about Queen Lyria, her strength, her wisdom, and most of all, her grief. He knew returning this girl would not only reunite a family, but heal a wound that had lasted 10 long years. The girl sat up slowly, wincing, and looked around the cabin. I don't remember much, she admitted. The storm. Everything is so blurry. She shivered, pulling the blanket closer. I was alone. Ethan's heart tightened. I know, he said softly. It's okay. You're not alone anymore. You're safe now. Her eyes filled with tears, though no sound escaped. She tried to speak but could only shake her head. Ethan understood that her soul had carried a decade of fear and loneliness into this moment. He stayed quiet, letting her process, letting her grief speak in silence. As days passed aboard the ship, Ethan helped her regain strength. He gave her simple meals, warm baths, and gentle encouragement. He encouraged her to speak about memories of her mother, about the palace, about the life she remembered. Each story she shared painted a picture of love and joy, and Ethan listened with care, never interrupting. She used to make the stars seem alive, Selene whispered one evening, her hands trembling as she held a small pendant. She told me, No matter how far the stars take you, they will always lead you home. She paused, looking out at the endless galaxy. And in that humbling, in that ache of regret and longing, Lyria felt something new, something she had never felt as a ruler, the human heart's quiet power. Stronger than any throne, louder than any empire, and more lasting than any crown. It was a quiet morning in the throne hall. Sunlight streamed through the crystal windows, painting the marble floors with long golden beams. The nobles had gathered for routine meetings, but there was a strange tension in the air. Even the advisors moved cautiously, sensing that something unusual was about to happen. Queen Lyria sat on her throne, her hands folded neatly in her lap. She had spent weeks thinking about the human envoy, Commander Elias Ward. Every corner of the palace reminded her of his absence, the way the hall had felt colder, the way whispers now carried a hint of doubt. And yet, deep inside, a fragile hope persisted. Suddenly, the great doors of the hall creaked open. Lyria's heart skipped a beat. For a moment, she thought it was another ambassador, another routine envoy, or even a servant bringing messages. But the figure that stepped inside silenced the entire hall. Elias Ward. He walked in without guards, without banners, without ceremony. His dark clothing was simple, and his silver emblem glinted faintly in the sunlight. He moved with the same calm dignity she remembered, the same quiet strength that had unsettled her weeks ago. But now there was something more. A patience, a careful judgment that made every step he took feel deliberate and purposeful. The nobles froze. Their whispers died instantly. Even the guards straightened, unsure whether to salute or remain silent. Lyria felt her breath catch in her throat. She had imagined this moment countless times, but reality was more powerful than imagination. Elias stopped a few steps from the throne. He bowed lightly, not too low, not too proud. His eyes met hers, calm, steady, but carrying a weight she could not yet understand. "Your Majesty," he said, his voice quiet, controlled, yet firm. "I thought about your words. I thought about your pride. And I decided, one moment should not define an entire future." The hall remained silent. Lyria felt a strange warmth rise in her chest. Her hands, which had rested on the throne's armrests, gripped tightly. She had expected confrontation. She had expected anger, perhaps even threats. But he had returned without blame, without insult, without raising his voice. She stepped down from the throne slowly, something she had never done in front of an envoy. But today, protocol felt meaningless. Today, only honesty mattered. "Commander," she said softly, her voice trembling just slightly, "I wronged you. I wronged your people. And I am sorry." Elias's lips curved into the faintest smile, a rare human expression she had pictured so many times, but never expected to see. It was a smile that carried understanding, patience, and forgiveness all at once. "Your apology is heard," he replied. "And your actions since then suggest that you understand more than you realize. That is enough to begin again." A quiet relief filled the throne hall. The tension that had weighed on the Dominion for weeks seemed to lift in an instant. Nobles exchanged glances, realizing that this was not just a simple meeting. This was the start of something new, something stronger. Lyria felt tears prick her eyes. She had feared rejection. She had feared that her pride had permanently pushed him away. But here he was, standing in front of her, silent yet patient, reminding her that true strength was not loud. True strength was calm. True strength could forgive and wait. For a long moment, they simply looked at each other, two beings from different worlds, bound together by respect, patience, and the courage to forgive. Then Lyria whispered, almost to herself, "Perhaps we can truly be allies now." Elias nodded. "Not just allies, Your Majesty, friends, and perhaps more than friends, if trust is built carefully." The hall seemed to brighten. The human had returned, and with him, hope. Not only for peace and cooperation, but for a deeper understanding of humanity's quiet power, the strength that did not shout, did not threaten, and did not bow down. And for Queen Lyria, it was the most important lesson she had ever learned. From the moment Elias Ward returned to the throne hall, everything began to change. The atmosphere of the Astron Dominion, once tense and cautious, grew lighter, warmer. Nobles whispered less with doubt and more with curiosity. Trade talks, which had stalled, began to move forward. The human envoy's calm presence had shifted the balance, not through threat or demand, but through quiet, undeniable strength. Queen Lyria walked beside him in the palace gardens that evening. Silver leaves shimmered under the violet sky, reflecting the lights of the city below. For weeks, she had imagined this moment, but it felt more real and more fragile than anything she had pictured. Every heartbeat reminded her of the lesson she had learned. Humility could be harder than pride. And forgiveness could be stronger than anger. "You have returned," she said softly. Almost as if testing the reality of the moment, Elias looked at her, calm and steady. "I never doubted that I would return," he said. "Humans value dignity, even when it is challenged. And some mistakes deserve patience." Lyria smiled faintly. "Patience? Yes. I have learned that now. Perhaps more than I have learned anything in my reign." They walked in silence for a while, the quiet of the gardens holding more weight than words ever could. She noticed how his eyes, calm and observing, seemed to see through the walls she had built around herself. He did not rush her, did not demand explanations, and did not seek praise. He simply existed, steady, strong, and human in a way that left her humbled. "Your people. They are remarkable," Lyria said after a pause. "Not because of strength or numbers, but because of character. Courage, patience, understanding. You have shown me something that no crown and no empire could ever teach." Elias inclined his head slightly. "It is simple. Humanity survives not only with weapons or strategy, but with values. Respect, honor, forgiveness. These are what make us strong, even when others expect weakness." Lyria felt warmth spread through her chest. She realized that the lesson of the human envoy was more than political. It was personal. It was a reminder that true power was not always visible. It could exist in silence, in restraint, in the choice to forgive rather than to retaliate. Weeks passed, and the Dominion's relationship with humanity grew stronger. Trade routes flourished. Agreements were signed with care and honesty. But beyond all the politics, Lyria understood the deeper gift Elias had given her, the gift of perspective. The gift of humility. The gift of recognizing the quiet, enduring strength of a human being. One evening, as the stars gleamed over the palace, she turned to Elias. "I once thought strength was showing no fear," she said softly. "Now I know it is something else entirely. It is patience, understanding, and the courage to remain calm when everything is uncertain." He smiled just faintly. "That is why humans endure. And that is why, despite our small size in the galaxy, we are never truly weak." She felt a deep respect swell within her. Not the respect of a queen for a subject, or of one ruler for another, but of one human for another. The lesson was clear. Pride could isolate. Silence could teach. And trust, once earned, could reshape the future. Years later, the story of the young queen and the human envoy would be told across star systems. How she had offended him, and how his quiet strength had taught an empire patience, humility, and the value of honor. And when people asked Queen Lyria why she trusted humans so deeply, she would smile, soft and sincere, and reply, "Because the strongest person I ever met was the one who walked away in silence and returned with understanding." That is strength the galaxy can never ignore. In that moment, the Asteron Dominion and humanity became allies, not merely in politics, but in values, in respect, and in the quiet power that one human had shown to a queen. The stars above shone brighter that night, reflecting the truth Lyria had learned. Strength does not always roar. Sometimes it simply waits. And when it returns, it changes everything. HFY. Humanity, quiet, patient, and always remarkable.